And now, I am going to introduce and really turn it over to our speaker for this afternoon. We are excited to hear from Miss Wanda Allen, and I will let Wanda share a whole lot more about her as she comes on the screen. But let's give a round of applause, both in person and virtually, to Wanda joining.
Thank you. Let me get the screen up here. All right, can everyone see the screen? Thumbs up if you can. Excellent. Well, I'm excited to be here, and follow-up is such a crucial part of business. And I'm going to give you tips and suggestions and ideas and nuggets of wisdom that you'll be able to carry out of this meeting with you. And I also hope that I stir you up a little bit, because if I stir you up, that means I've done my job. I want you leaving with a different perspective and view on follow-up. Before we get into the throes of the presentation, I do want to ask a couple questions. And so Ryan, the wonderful technician behind the scenes, is going to help me out. And then for those of you that want to ask questions, want to answer, if you're in person, I believe the mic will be circulating. So I'm going to ask, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your follow-up skills? And I really encourage you to be honest, because the more honest you are, the wider the door opens for change and correction. And this is a very safe place. There's no judgment or criticism. So if anybody wants to engage in answering that question, we have a 2. Thank you for your honesty. 6. All right. 3. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else or anyone in the audience want to maybe put your fingers up with how many of that?
We got pull up numbers. Yeah.
Looks like we
what
have
was
a
that?
few
What was
people.
that?
Wanda, we had a bunch of hands that were holding up. I saw 4s, 5s, 6s.
Okay. Great. So we have a range from 2 up to I believe 6 is the highest that I saw. Okay, so great. All right. So now that you've rated yourself, I'm going to ask one more question before we get into it. What is your biggest follow-up challenge? So back in the chat box and then back in the room if you want to answer that specifically.
Just raise your hand and I'll bring the mic over to you if you're in the room.
We have time and attention. Very common. Remembering to do it. I'm going to be addressing those objections. I will be on that.
Wanda, we do have one in the room.
Okay. You want
challenges are consistency and finding the right follow-up for the right person.
Okay. Consistency. I will be addressing following up the right way for the right person. In Q&A, ask me that question, and I'll answer that for you. If you don't get a feel for it after the present, that it's been answered. Yeah, there's an echo. Yeah, Ryan. Yeah, we had that early on.
Wanda, I do have another one in the room.
Okay, great.
Lack of motivation.
Okay. That is I'm going to be talking about fear typically motivation. Fear is a part of this presentation. Okay, so hopefully you will be motivated, which I think you will, after you hear what's going to be presented today. Okay. All right. Is that it in the room? If so, we'll move on. If not, I'm all ears.
Yeah, that's it for right. Oh, you got another person.
We have one more.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm curious, sometimes.
Hold your hand up here. No.
Oh, right.
Slide your hand. There you go.
Okay, thank you. I feel like if I don't follow up within a certain time frame, then you've missed the window.
Yeah. And once you get the habit of getting it done when it's supposed to get done, that's going to go away. However, if you have leads out there that you didn't follow up on and you feel like it's been too long, follow up because you never know. If you don't, there's just no opportunity for potential business. If you do follow up, even if it's been 6 months or longer, that is okay. You just apologize, say, confess thy sin. I'm sorry I haven't followed up sooner, but thought I'd reach out to you today. I was thinking about you, and then go. Don't let the fear of it's been too long stop you from doing it. And then use that as reinforcement to, I'm going to get my follow-up work done when it's supposed to, because this is way too uncomfortable. It becomes difficult, and use it as to fuel your fire, your follow-up fire. Okay?
Wanda, do we
All
have,
right.
we have room for one more person?
One more. And then
Okay.
Okay, maybe because it's a feeling of being too salesy and pushy. And I have a gentleman who is after me like crazy for AT&T lines. And it is just, he didn't call me at the right time. He's calling me an hour before I told him I was available, even text me all the way up until here since I met him 2 weeks ago. So I don't want to be like that.
Yeah, you won't be. And I'm specifically going to be addressing pushy and salesy in the presentation. Okay? So you won't, there are those, what you just described, there are people out there like that, but I don't think they're real common, because most people aren't like that. Most people do the complete opposite. They don't follow up. And so I'm going to get into the reasons why. And you're not going to be pushy when you're following up. And I will explain that in the presentation. Okay? All righty, so we're going to get rolling here. Now, I'm going to start off with a statistic. Did you know that there's over 100,000 networking events a month in the United States? And that is a whole lot of people networking. And here's the end result for most of those people. If you don't recognize this, I'm going to say congratulations. Because I've declared this an epidemic in the business world. If you do recognize it, it's what I call business card buildup. Now, I'm going to be very direct with you today, because if I try to sugarcoat or sweet talk you through this really important topic, I'll be doing you a complete disservice, and I don't want to do that. So if I say anything that stings, just know that I'm saying it because I care. So if you have this situation on your desk, I want you to stop it. Stop going to events, connecting with people, and then doing nothing. Because when you do that, you're wasting your time, energy, and money. And that's what it takes to get a person's business card. Now, we live in an amazing technology time, and so you may be scanning contact information into your phone or using a QR code. I mean, there's just all kinds of different ways we can get contact information. But if you're electronically downloading information into your phone in particular, or even in your computer, it's out of sight, out of mind. And I think it's even more dangerous than the business cards because it's out of sight, out of mind. So if you're getting all this contact information electronically and doing nothing with it, it's the same end result. So if you have this situation on your desk or in your phone, I want better for you. So I'm going to get into the what, the how, and the why of follow-up. But before I do that, I do want to go into my background a little bit. So I'm Wanda Allen. My company's Follow-Up Sales Strategies, and I'm an international speaker, coach, and a corporate trainer. I'm also an author. I've written 2 books. My first book was Follow-Up Savvy, and my second book is Follow-Up Sales Strategies. And I've been in business for 16 years. And before I started my business, I had a very successful 25-year corporate career. I was a business banker, started at the age of 19 as a secretary, which is a very old title, so I'm dating myself because today they're called administrative assistants. But I was a 19-year-old secretary, worked my way up the corporate ladder, and at the age of 30, I was promoted to senior vice president. And I spent the lion's share of my career managing SBA departments. Stands for Small Business Administration, and they are loans. And I managed departments that did 100 million plus in annual loan volume. And it was through that experience that I developed a very strong skill for creating systems. And after managing SBA for about 15 years, I was asked if I would consider the position of branch manager. And I was ready for a change, so I accepted the position, which put me into sales. I had never been in sales in my life, and the bank sent me to one sales class. And then they threw me out with the sharks, and it was sink or swim. And let me tell you, I was sinking. And if you've ever been in corporate sales, you know you have that monthly sales meeting with the whole team, and everyone's sales performance for the month gets shared for everyone to see. And our team ranged between 12 and 15 people, and I was always in the bottom three. In fact, there was one month I was dead last. And this is how I felt every time I walked into one of those meetings, because I can't tell you how embarrassed I was, how humiliated I was, how many times I thought, my God, am I going to lose my job? It was awful. And then one day I get a call from a referral source, and she tells me she has a client who's looking for a new banker. And this client of hers, his name's Randy, had deposits of $1 million plus and good lending needs. And in the banking business, that is a platinum referral. And I tell you, I had a fire light inside of me that I had not felt in a very long time, because I knew if I could get Randy into the bank, it would take me from the bottom of the team to the top of the team. But then Adele, my referral source, tells me he's talking to 2 other bankers. And I said, okay, didn't dim my fire. How can I stand out from them? So what I did was I really studied the sales process, and I realized how critical follow-up is to every single stage in the process. And there's also an extension of following up called staying in touch, also known as relationship management, which is an area that's terribly neglected today. Because what so many people do is they follow up on the prospecting side, get the business, close it, drop the relationship, and they're off looking for their next new lead, prospect, and client, forgetting about everybody they've already done business with. So I'm here to remind you, there's more opportunity either through more business and or referrals with the people who have already worked with you. So please don't forget about them. So I really understood it all, and I said, okay, but how am I going to be good at this? And I fell back on what I know how to do well, which is create systems. So I developed systems for following up on the prospecting side and then staying in touch once business had been closed. And it took Randy, and I put these into play with Randy. It took him 9 months to make his decision, and he did choose me. And it changed everything for me. It was the most pivotal moment in my professional life. And I've had many, many successes since then. So I know most of you would love to have the right systems in place. And there may be some of you that would be happy with a system because there's just nothing there. So if I asked each of you if you were good at follow-up, I know many of you are going to tell me no, because it's just an area that in general people really struggle with. And if you're not good at getting your follow-up work done, there are some common results. First one is you lose business. Bottom line, end of story. If you don't follow up, you are going to lose business. Research tells us that only 2% of sales are made on the first contact. That means 98% of the time you have to follow up. Next result is you have a thin or inconsistent pipeline. And this is stressful because if your pipeline is thin or inconsistent, your sales are going to be thin or inconsistent, which means your income is going to be thin or inconsistent. And therein lies the stress. You quit or give up too soon when you're following up. And if you quit or give up too soon, you're not giving your pipeline an opportunity to grow because leads will prematurely fall off. And let's face it, sales is a numbers game. The more robust your pipeline is, the more business you're going to close. Next result, you carry around negative emotions on a regular basis about having to do your follow-up. Next, you have business card buildup that I just discussed, and you lack strong relationships. These are all common results of not being good at follow-up. So whether you recognize yourself in one of these, a few of these, or all of these, again, I want better for you. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you 3 strategies that if you're willing to implement them, I promise they will improve your follow-up efforts immediately. And these strategies are the fundamentals of follow-up. The problem with life today is it has gotten so complex, complicated, and fast-paced that the fundamentals are lost, and that is not a good thing. So I'll use a sports team as an example. Anytime there's a team and they've lost 3 or more games in a row, you will always hear the coach say, we have to get back to the fundamentals. And a coach always says that because you can't be good at anything if the fundamentals are not there. In fact, it's been said to be an expert at anything, you have to be a master at the fundamentals. So life is moving full steam ahead, and that's great, but we're going to go in the opposite direction and get back to the fundamentals of follow-up. Because if you are struggling in this area, it's because you don't have the 3 fundamentals in place. And then if you'd like to have a conversation beyond today's presentation, I'll be offering a free gift at the end, okay? So let's get into it. We have to deal with the elephant in the room, and that is stress. People are so stressed out today. And if you feel like follow-up adds to your stress level, or follow-up work in and of itself is stressful, I have really good news for you, because follow-up is not stressful. What creates the stress is not doing your follow-up work. That's where the rub is. Because when you're not getting your follow-up work done, there's negativity attached to that. And that negativity is centered in emotions. First emotion is embarrassment, and we touched on this. And I believe embarrassment is a very strong emotion for us because we all have a sense of pride. And if something's too embarrassing, our pride's going to stand up and say, no way are we going to follow up now? It's been way too long. Next emotion is guilt. There's a lot of guilt, in particular with relationship management, because when you're not staying in touch with the people that are important to you, in essence, you're neglecting that relationship, and that comes with guilt. And there's also guilt with not following up when you're supposed to. And then the last emotion is discouragement. You know, you just don't feel good about the business that is not closing. Your pipeline's thin. You feel like business is just slipping through your fingers, passing you by. And this is how strong and powerful not doing follow-up work is and what's created from it. So if you're embarrassed, guilty, and discouraged on a regular basis, this is how you end up feeling. And I call this trying to get through the day schlepping around a big old shoulder. It's exhausting and it's going to wear you out. Now that's the negative. Let me flip positive. What do you experience when you do get your follow-up work done? First is composure. This is so important. You know why? Because when you're composed, you're in control. The reason you're so composed is because you're getting the work done every working day that is going to bring you more business. Next emotion is encouragement. You feel great about the business you're closing, the prospects you're working with, your pipeline's robust, you have a spring in your step, you're really loving what you do. And then the last emotion is confidence, and this is not talked about enough, but it's so crucial because at the end of the day, that is what prospects buy. When a prospect is in the market for a coach, they are going to gravitate to that coach that is confident in who they are and what they do. That is who they want to do business with. So when you follow up, when you're doing what you need to do to get the business, your confidence will naturally elevate. So when you're composed, encouraged, and confident on a regular basis, this is how you're going to end up feeling. And you may say, come on, that's a bit dramatic, isn't it? But I challenge you, get your follow-up work done every working day and tell me if by and large you don't feel like this versus the person trying to get through the day with the big boulder. But before we can get here, which is what I call the happy place, we have to deal with this right here. What goes on in between the ears? This is fundamental number 1, mindset. If your mindset isn't right about getting your follow-up work done, you are going to get tripped up. Now, we all have an inner child in us. And when we were kids and said, I don't want to do that, we had adults in our lives that said, I don't care if you don't want to do it, you are going to do it anyway. Well, when you become an adult and your inner child shows up and says, I don't want to do my follow-up work today, you don't have to. And by the way, follow-up work is very easy not to do, but it's detrimental to future business. So when your child shows up and says, I don't want to do my follow-up work today, here's the mindset shift I want you to make. I must follow up. I want you to make it a non-negotiable because there's 2 reasons you follow up. One is to increase your sales, and the other one is to take care of your relationships. It is truly that simple. So when you're siding with your child and saying, I don't want to follow up work today. What you're really saying is, I don't want to work on increasing my sales or taking care of my relationship. And that doesn't make any sense. That's why you get up every working day. So please don't let your inner child be your decision maker, because it will not bode well for future business. Okay, so that's one side of us. Now I got to talk about the other side of us, the ego. And we all have one, okay? And if you're operating from your ego, it's not your best self. And I'm going to stereotype here for a minute, so please don't throw stones at me. But when you think of an egotistical person, you typically think of a man. So, ladies, when I said if you're operating from your ego, it's not going to serve you well, you may have thought, but I really don't. But the ego is very, very sneaky, and I'll explain that in a minute. Now, we all know that the traits of an ego: arrogant, know-it-all, it's never wrong, the chest is always puffed out. Those are common traits that are common knowledge. But I'm going to give you a twist on the ego. Anytime you are afraid, you can be sure the ego is having its way. And so some of you may already know this, okay? What this is saying is the ego is actually a chicken. But it makes up for that chickenness. That is not a word, but it is today. It makes up for that chickenness by being so arrogant and a know-it-all and so on and so on. This is so important because I want you to focus on the highlighted word, afraid. There are so many fears associated with following up, which is the number one reason why people don't do it. So I'm going to get into some of the common fears and give you a mindset shift to overcome them. First fear is fear of being uncomfortable. If you're not used to doing your follow-up work, it is uncomfortable, but in the beginning only. I want you to view follow-up as a muscle. The more you do it, the more developed it gets, the stronger it gets, and most importantly, the thicker your skin will get. And as this diagram illustrates, and I know you know this, the magic happens outside of the comfort zone. So please don't think, well, I want to get to new levels of business and sales, but I'm going to remain comfortable. I don't want to do anything that's uncomfortable. That's the modified definition of insanity. Keep doing the same thing, but expecting different results. So when you have to follow up and it is uncomfortable, you have one of two choices. You bust through the discomfort and take the follow-up action anyway, in spite of how uncomfortable it is, or you shrink back into your comfort zone, don't take the follow-up action, and stay flat because there's no room in that comfort zone. So when this fear shows up, the mindset shift I want you to make is, when I'm uncomfortable to follow up, that is my opportunity to bring in more business. Next fear, fear of not knowing the outcome. And I hear this, I don't like to follow up because I don't know what they're going to say. Well, this is ego-based thinking. The ego's a know-it-all. And if it doesn't know, it doesn't want to do. And it doesn't want to do because it is a chicken. So when this fear shows up, the mindset shift is, if I don't follow up, I will not know the outcome. Next fear, and this is the number one fear there is, and it was mentioned earlier. Fear of being pushy. It's the number one fear, because what I'm about to say, I hear more than I hear anything else. If I keep following up, I feel like I'm being pushy. And this makes me crazy because it puts such a negative connotation on following up. And what feeds this fear for those who have it is they have that pushy salesperson in their mind that they don't want to be, which was mentioned earlier. Okay, I don't want to be that. So what I'll do is go so far to the opposite end of the spectrum to make sure I'm not that pushy salesperson that I end up taking very little, if any, action at all. So if your job is to bring in business, your job is to follow up. And if you're not following up, you're not doing your job. And when somebody's not doing their job, they're not being professional. So therefore, not following up is being unprofessional. Now, thesaurus tells us that the synonym to following up is pursuing and showing interest. That is what you're doing. The antonym, according to thesaurus, is avoiding and forgetting. So do you want to be that coach that pursues and shows interest in the prospect, or the one who runs the risk of being perceived by the prospect as somebody who is avoiding and forgetting? And the answer is obvious. So I'm going to give you an example that will highlight this point. I've decided I really want to get my health in good order. And so I want to bring on a coach to really keep me on track and get this change made. I've talked to 2 health coaches. I told them both what I want to do, and I'm really committed to it. And right after I talk to them, I get this huge project at work. I'm so busy, I can't even think about onboarding a coach right now. I get through that project, and now my husband and I are going on a 2-week vacation. We get back from vacation, and now a pipe has burst in the house, and I'm so busy and stressed dealing with the insurance company and contractors. Have you ever had a prospect like this, where it's one thing after the other after the other? And if you've been in sales long enough, I know the answer is yes. Well, I've talked to 2 health coaches. One followed up with me twice, never heard from again. The other one is consistently following up with me throughout all my issues. Who am I more impressed with? Who is coming across as more professional? And who is going to get my business? And again, the answer is obvious. So when this fear shows up, the mindset shift I want you to make is I am a professional coach who respectfully shows my prospects that I'm interested. If you will make professional and respectful your mantra, there's no way you'll be pushy. They don't fit together. You'd have better luck fitting a square peg into a round hole. It's just not going to happen. Next fear, fear of appearing desperate. Okay, this is a 2-pronged fear. The first prong is if you're ever at a time where you really need that client for financial reasons. And I think anyone that's been in business development, in sales long enough has been in those moments. And if you're ever at a time like that, it can create a real sense of desperation within. So if you're facing that situation, leave your problem at the door and be confident enough in yourself that you know in no way are you going to project onto the prospect how badly you need that piece of business. Okay, that's the first prong. The second prong is the old flippant, well, if I keep following up, they're going to think I'm desperate for business. This is ego-based thinking. The ego's a know-it-all. You have no idea what the prospect is thinking. For that matter, you have no idea what anybody is thinking. Even those closest to you, you may think you know what they're thinking, but there's a very good chance you don't. So you have to put the ego aside. You have no clue what the prospect is thinking. Your only responsibility is to take the follow-up action. So when this fear shows up, the mindset shift I want you to make is, my job is to bring in business. Therefore, I will respectfully follow up as many times as necessary. Last fear, fear of rejection. This is a close second to being pushy because I hear it a lot. I don't like to follow up because I'm afraid they're going to tell me no. Well, no is part of the sales process. Nobody can be in sales and never be told no. No one is that talented, gifted, or unique. In fact, it's been said the most successful salespeople get the most no's. Why? Because they make more calls than most people. And there's a real misconception out there in that so many people think the pain is in the no. And that is wrong. The pain is not in the no. The pain is in the ignore. I will take a no over an ignore any day of the week. Because when a prospect tells me no, I know where they stand. It's an update. It keeps my train moving. And sales is about movement. But when a prospect ignores me, that car on my train is now in idle and it's going to slow my train down. So when you're following up, no is the second best answer you can get. Now, it's been my observation that those who have a hard time saying no have a harder time hearing no. So if you're somebody who has a hard time saying no, I'm going to give you a challenge. I want you to say no to something every single day. Because when you're in sales, it is crucial that you get very comfortable with the word no, whether you're the one saying it or hearing it. So if on any day you're deciding not to follow up, I want you to take this assessment. Is my decision not to follow up the result of fear-based thinking. And there's a very good chance it is, but you will call it something else. There's something more urgent. There's something more important. I'll do it later. I don't have time. And more times than not, those are excuses. And an excuse is a cover story for the real truth. And the real truth is you're probably just stuck in a fear, and it's more than likely one of the fears that I just mentioned. Okay, and then one last thing I'm going to say on mindset is stay away. Oh, I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. Okay, quickly, we're going to go back in. Which fear are you going to commit to overcome starting today? So if you want to go in the chat box, if you want to shout out in the room, it lists today's the day. Let's do it. Let's make that commitment. When you say it out loud, when you type it in the chat box, there's just going to be a greater chance of you getting that done. Fear of being pushy. Okay, so make that your mantra. You're not pushy. You're doing your job. You're being of service. You're pursuing. You're showing interest. Fear of rejection. No is not a bad word. Okay, that is the mindset shift. No is good. Uncomfortable. That's right. Expand that comfort zone. Rejection. Pushy. Excellent. So make note of the narrative that I gave you to counter that fear, and then make the mindset shift your mantra. Okay, yeah. Pushy, uncomfortable. Yeah. Yep. All right. Excellent. Anyone in the room? Are there any shout outs in the room of the fears?
Yep, we have one. Hang on.
Fear of being pushy.
Pushy, yeah.
Fear of being uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable. Yes. Okay. I'd say oh, we have one more?
Yes, fear of being like the AT&T guy, pushy and desperate.
Yeah. And that's not going to be you because he wasn't professional. And that's not professional hounding somebody. It's too much. So put him on the shelf, and then you just be professional and respectful and do your job. And then that salesman, you will not be. Okay, excellent. So there's one more thing I'm going to say about mindset, and that is please stay out of what I call the danger zone. The prospect will let me know when they're ready. No. If you're going to rely on the prospect to get back to you, you're relying on somebody else for the growth of your business. That is not a good business strategy. Even though a prospect may say, okay, I'll let you know when I'm ready, more times than not, they don't. And then if there's a big gap of time from the time they told you they'd let you know to the time they're actually ready, there's a very good chance they're not even going to remember you. They're going to say, what was his name, Joe? No, I think it was Jim. No, I'm certain it was Jeff. And then they're not going to have your contact information. And the next person the next coach that they meet that does what you do is going to get the business. That's why you always want to be in control of the next follow-up step. And you do that by make sure you're asking the right next step questions. Okay, so that's fundamental one. Got to fix it up here in between the ears mindset. Fundamental number 2 is you must use a CRM. It stands for Customer Relationship Manager. It is a computer program where you keep all of your contact and follow-up information for the people that are important to you. If you're not using a CRM, the follow-up in relationship management process is going to be so much more difficult. You're going to be slipping and sliding. Now, if you're not using a CRM, you're using something. Okay, so I'm going to share with you what some of those somethings are. Pen and paper, spiral notebook on your desk. How much time do you waste flipping through pages of paper trying to find information you wrote 3 weeks ago? And if you ever lose the notebook or that piece of paper, that's going to be a bad day. Sticky notes. Please don't use sticky notes. They get lost in the paper shuffle. If you're lucky, you'll realize you've lost a sticky note, but it's going to stop you dead in your tracks. You're going to have to hunt and search and dig for it. You're going to be wasting time. Your stress level is going to go up. And that's if you're lucky. If you're not so lucky, you won't even realize you've lost a sticky note. And for all you know, that sticky could have led you to the biggest piece of business you've ever closed. Calendar, paper calendar, please don't do this, because if you keep all of your contact and your appointments and your follow-up information on a calendar, in no time it is going to get very messy. And our brains inherently shut down to messes. And if you ever lose the paper calendar, that's going to be another bad day. Cell phones. We can do amazing things with our cell phones. Please don't try to turn it into a CRM. A cell phone was not designed for that. Anytime you try to turn something into other than what it was designed for, it will be clunky at best. The only thing the cell phone's good for is if you're on the app for your CRM or you're on the CRM website. Email. Please don't use your inbox as your to-do list and reminder. You're going to add to inbox overload. And I'm going to say /text because I think text is becoming the new email. So it's overload regardless, but I'm going to talk email right here. So let me give you an example. Let's say I'm talking to Sue about speaking to her group, and she sends me an email. Hey, Wanda, we're interested. The board's meeting middle of next month. Follow up with me then. And I think, oh, better keep that email in my inbox because I got to follow up middle of next month. That's a month away. How buried is it going to get? And am I even going to remember? And then I'm going to have to hunt and dig and search and sift and be wasting a boatload of time and energy. So don't use your email. Excel. So many people use Excel, and it is not good for two reasons. Number one, it is too labor intensive. And the bigger your sheet is, the more laborious it is. You're scrolling up and down and left and right, moving columns and rows. It's just too much. Second problem with is it's not automated. And when it's not automated, it just leaves too much room for error and oversight. And I'm sure you'll agree with me that Excel was designed to be a spreadsheet program, not a CRM. So kick it to the curb. And then the last way I'm going to share with you, which is worse than all of these and is commonly used, and it is your memory. Please don't think, oh, I'll remember to call Kay 2 weeks from today. And I'm going to say, yeah, probably not. And it has nothing to do with age. Life is too busy. There's too much going on. Our brains were not designed to be a CRM. This is the way that will wake you up at 3 a.m. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot to do that. Or it will remind you 2 weeks later that you were supposed to do something 2 weeks ago, and now you're embarrassed and guilty and discouraged, and all those negative emotions I mentioned earlier will come flooding back. So if you get nothing else out of me today, please get a CRM and use it. I'm telling you, it will change your life. And that is a heavy statement, but I say it with 100% certainty, because when you're using a CRM, you will absolutely close more business. You will have stronger relationships. Nothing will slip through the cracks, and your stress level will lower. And when all of that happens, your life changes. There is that much power in a CRM. Okay, so that's fundamental 2. Must use a CRM. Fundamental number 3 is you have to make it a top priority. Now, this may sound like common sense, but it is not very common. The number one reason why people tell me they can't get their follow-up work done is because they don't have the time. I've heard it a gazillion times, and I never ever believe it. It is not about the time. And time is a real problem for a lot of people in that they consistently have a shortage of it. And if you are consistently short on time, you will enter what I call the blame game, where you blame time for everything. I'm too busy, I'm in a hurry, I gotta go, I'll do it later. And this can become very habitual. So much so that you'll find yourself saying you don't have time to do something that would take 5 minutes. And it's been my observation that those who consistently have a shortage of time are the ones who waste the most. How do they waste it? They waste their days on low priority, busy work. And then they get to the end of the day and say, oh, shoot, now I don't have time to get that follow-up work done, and it's time's fault. So why do so many people waste their time on low priority, busy work? because that's the comfortable work. And our human nature is to gravitate towards comfort. But please recognize that low priority, busy, comfortable work is not the work that's going to move the needle forward in your business. It's the top priority work that will do that. And we all have low priority work that needs to get done, but never at the expense of your top priority work. And there's a crazy thing that happens. I've declared it a phenomenon because I can't explain to you how it happens or why it happens. All I can tell you is it happens. When you get your top priority work done first, before you do anything else, you will be amazed at how time shows up for you. I mean, it is truly stunning. And what happens then is time becomes your friend. It is no longer the enemy, and it's the enemy for so many people because they're always in a race against it. They're always trying to chase it down, find more. So if you feel like you are in the blame game of time, I'm going to pull you out right now. I don't want you to say ever again, I didn't get that done because I didn't have the time. What I want you to say instead is, I didn't get that done because I didn't make it a high enough priority. Therein lies the truth. When you blame it on time, it's out there somewhere. You cannot get your hands on it. But when you say, I didn't make it a high enough priority, hey, that's the best news there is because you have control over your priority list. You are the decision maker as to what you are going to work on when you sit at your desk. And it's so much easier to correct any situation when you've got control over it. So, having said all that, please understand in no way am I suggesting you're not busy. I don't know any working person who's not busy. First of all, you're running a business, or maybe you have a job where you're working for somebody, or you might have both. And then you throw in spouse, kids, grandkids, aging parents, you do volunteer work, you sit on boards, you coach the kids' sports team, you're a Girl Scout mom, on and on and on it goes. And what I will say is the fuller your life is, the more critical it is you prioritize effectively in your work time so that you can make sure what needs to get done is getting done. Because the ripple effect to that is, it's just beautiful. It's priceless. Okay, so that's fundamental number 3. So we're going to go back in and I'm going to ask you to commit. Which fundamental are you going to implement first? And you might want to ask me, well, which one's the most important? I don't have any of them, or I only have one of them. I can't answer that question because if it's like if you were sitting on a 3-legged bar stool and you asked me which leg was more important, I can't answer. They are all important. You know what's grabbing you. You know what's calling your attention. So that's the one you're going to work on first. Okay, so we've got mindset, priority, excellent. They're all three. This is foundational. This is the foundation of your sales, of the business that you want to acquire. Okay, anybody else in the chat box? Mindset. Yeah. Excellent. Because let's face it, it all starts in here. I got the feedback. We can talk ourselves into anything or out of anything. That's how powerful our minds are. Our minds are so powerful, the phone can weigh 1,000 pounds. You just won't be able to pick it up. So mindset, good. CRM. We're going to have a Q&A. I'll answer that at the end. Mindset and priority. Okay, great. All right. Okay, moving on. It's all about relationships. I mentioned relationship management at the top, and I'm just going to spend a minute on this. It's so crucial because let's face it, at the end of the day, business is about relationships. If you don't have relationships, you don't have business. And it's a terribly neglected area today. It's not a priority. It needs to be a priority. It is as crucial as follow-up. Because the deeper and better and stronger relationships you have, the deeper, better, and stronger your business is going to be. And so with relationship management, running 100 miles an hour in 10 different directions has become the norm today. And so it's so many things fall off the list. And unfortunately, it's important things that tend to fall off the list. And relationship management is one of them. At best, for most people, relationship management is at the bottom of the list. At worst, it's not even on the list. So you may have heard, if you don't take care of your people, there's someone out there who will. And if you're not taking care of your people, they will become what I call vulnerable prey for your competition. And you don't want that. And there's three primary people in business: clients, prospects, and referral sources. You got to take care of them. It's crucial work. It's been said the most successful salespeople have the best habits and best relationships. And that's simplified at its best. And it's really great news because anyone is capable of developing good habits and maintaining strong relationships if they so choose. So please make relationship management a top priority. Move it back up your list if it has fallen down. Okay, now we're going to go into some sales statistics. Research tells us that 79% of people never follow up. I think this is a spot on statistic. That's how bad it is out there. So if you will really commit and get your arms around your follow-up responsibilities, there's so much more opportunity for you because people don't do it. The bar is so low today, you're going to trip on it. You don't even have to lift a foot up. It is that low. That's like hindsight. When I got Randy, I am convinced, and I still have a relationship with Randy. That was probably 20 years ago. I stood above those other two bankers because I was following up, because I was doing what he asked, because I didn't rely on him. It brings you more business. This research also tells us that 80% of sales are made between the 5th and 12th follow-up. And I think this is a very accurate statement. So keep this in mind. Just because a prospect doesn't respond and you have followed up 3 times, that doesn't mean anything. Okay? Don't let it discourage you and get you down and cause you to stop following up. However, only 10% of people make more than 3 follow-ups, and I think this is very accurate. But I'm going to reword this bottom statistic to really drive the point home. 90% of people follow up twice and then quit. So what that looks like, you get a lead, you follow twice, the prospect doesn't respond, you drop it. Now you got to go get another lead, you follow twice, the prospect doesn't respond, you drop it. On and on and on, and before you know it, this is how you feel. A hamster on a wheel, running, but not getting very far. And this pains me because people work so hard on what I call the front end work, which is lead generation. But they fall so short on the back end work, which is follow-up, that they will never experience the fruit of all that labor they're putting out on the front end. And one of the big problems is lead generation can create a false sense of accomplishment. And that's problematic. Lead generation is crucial work, but it doesn't bring you business. It's crucial work because you have nothing to follow up on if you don't have a lead. But I want you to look at it like a seed. Lead generation plants the seed. If nothing is done with that lead, it is going to go dormant. And your job is to get that seed, that lead, to sprout into a yes or a no. And the only way that seed is going to sprout is through follow-up. So if you feel, and the other problem too is so many people feel like the front end work's the easy part and the back end's the hard part, and that's completely backwards. The front end is the heavy lifting because it's going to take your time, your energy. Oftentimes it takes your money. The back end part, all you got to do is pick a phone up or send an email or a text or a DM. That takes, not going to cost you a penny, takes very little effort, very little energy. But if you feel like the back end is the hard part, it's up here. It's in between the ears, and I will refer you back to fundamental number 1. So I want to tell you about this guy who chopped trees. He chopped trees morning, noon, and night, huffing, puffing, sweating, bloodied hands, blistered hands. He worked his fingers to the bone. But nobody could convince him to sharpen his axe. Because if he just sharpened his axe, he wouldn't have to work as hard and he'd be able to chop a whole lot more trees. And do you know why nobody could convince him to sharpen his axe? Because he said he didn't have time to sharpen his axe because he was too busy chopping trees. So if you find yourself saying, I don't have time to follow up because I'm too busy trying to build my business, it's no different than the tree cutter. You've already done the hard work. You've gotten the lead. Sharpen that axe by following up. So are you using a dull axe? If you feel like, yes, I'm on that hamster wheel, yes, I have the dull axe, and you want out of the, I call it the madness, the chaos, there's only one way, and it is through systems. Now, I know systems is a cold, clinical word. So for our creatives and free spirits, this word will all but give you a high. If you don't like the word systems, use the word routines. They mean the same thing. If I asked each of you, hey, what's your daily system, working days only, what's your daily system or routine for getting your follow-up and relationship management work done? I know many of you are going to tell me you don't have any. If you don't have any, I really want you to be open to getting some in place because here's what they're going to do for you. First, they're going to give you structure. Structure is so important. I get pushback on this. I hate structure. Structure is claustrophobic. And I'm not, and you know, we're all wired differently. And I'm not saying you need to be so structured that you can't breathe, but you have to have some degree of structure in every working day because if you don't, that day is going to be a free-for-all. And you're going to be slipping and sliding and getting to the end of the day and saying, oh my gosh, I was so busy, but I don't feel like I got anything done. Ding, ding, ding. There was no structure. Structure supports you in getting done what needs to get done. It's going to support you in being committed to that priority work. Now, I use kids as an example. Kids do better under structure and they become better people because of that structure. You will perform better under structure and you will close more business because of that structure. Next benefit, organization, critical. There has to be a degree of order and organization in business in general, but particularly in sales. Because if there's no order and organization, the fur never stops flying. And that is a very difficult environment in which to live. And the other problem with disorder, disorganization, is it opens the door wide for inefficiencies. And I believe this crazed frenzy that we all live in has desensitized people to inefficiencies. As I mentioned earlier, running 100 miles an hour, 10 different directions is the norm. And that's incredibly inefficient. And that hits your bottom line. You know why? Because inefficiencies, they cost you time, they cost you energy, and they cost you money. Those are three invaluable sources. So this is why you want to have a degree of order and organization. Next benefit is efficiency. This is crucial. So I'm going to flip over what I just said about inefficiencies. I know you know what the word means, but I'm going to drill it down. The more efficient you are, the more productive you're going to be. The more productive you are, the more business you're going to close. And the more business you close, the more money you're going to make. So therein lies the drill down effect to your bottom line. And then the last benefit is consistency. And this was mentioned earlier. It has been said that success does not exist without consistency. You can't have one without the other. The straightest line to your 2026 business goal, and I'm talking sales and income, clients and income, the most direct path to that is follow-up. And because of it, follow-up is the number one way to bring in more business. Because of that, you can't be inconsistent with getting your follow-up work done. Meaning you can't do it when you have the time, when you're in the mood, when it's convenient, because that is going to create a haphazard effect. And if you're able to hit your goal in that haphazard effect, it is going to be very clunky and it's going to be a lot harder. And you want to be on that straight path. And that's what consistency is. So I use weight as an example because we can all relate to it. If I say, this is it, this is the year, I'm losing 20 pounds, but I will work out when it's convenient, when I'm in the mood, and I will eat healthy when it's convenient and I'm in the mood, and I can fit it into my schedule. There's not a chance I'm going to lose that weight because it is going to be so inconsistent and so all over the board. And follow-up is the same thing. You want to commit to it and you want to make it a priority. So I'm going to ask you, if you're operating without any kind of systems or routines, is it costing you and or your company financially in lost business? So we can go back and into the chat, and if you say, yes, it is, you say it out loud, you type it in the chat box, it's going to resonate in you like, this is not good. This is the day for change. This is why I'm here today. And onward and upward. The past is the past. Water under the bridge. This is about moving forward. So does anybody want to share? If you don't, that's okay. If it is costing you financially, if you know you don't have the right systems or routines in place, maybe you've never even thought of it like this. Oh, everybody's going shy on me now. That's okay. That's all right. Okay, we will move on. Never thought of it like that. Thank you, Tracy. Yeah.
Wanda, we do
Yeah.
have one person.
Okay.
So I just wanted to say that for many years in my business, I was not consistent. And having had the happy experience of being consistent now, my income and my business has really, really grown a lot. So it's totally worth it.
Yeah. It's and that's the thing, it is so, life has gotten so, I said this already, so complicated and complex. If we will get back to the basics, back to the fundamentals, it truly is that simple. I believe there's almost an addiction to complexity, because if something, you mean all I have to do is follow up every working day? Yeah, that's it. That's if you did nothing else but that for the rest of the year, you are going to be a one happy camper come December 31. It is truly that simple. And the tendency is that it can't be that simple. But if I complicated it, then the tendency could be, yeah, I could see how that would work. So let's keep it simple. Simple doesn't mean easy, by the way. It means it's clear. But when it's clear, you have the vision for it. When it's complicated, it gets muddy. So if you don't have any systems or routines in place, or you have them, or you're inconsistent with them, whatever your situation is, you can tighten up. Today's the day to do it, because timing is of the essence. I think Natalie mentioned at the top of this meeting, we're 2 weeks away from the end of the first quarter in 2026. I was like, wasn't New Year's just last week, though? I mean, time goes by in lightning speed, and not to be a Debbie Downer, but I promise 26 will be gone before we know it. And because of that, every day matters and every day counts. Please make it a commitment for the rest of the year. You will not squander another working day. And if you commit and hold to that, again, come December 31, you are going to be one happy camper, because you're going to be productive and efficient and organized and all those good things, and consistent, that is going to support the growth of your business. So before we get to Q,
So I wanted to echo you about the systems and routines. One of the mind shifts that worked for me that you said earlier was, if you are not tracking your no's, you'll never get to a yes. So that was a huge aha for me last year. So now every week, my assistant asked me, how many no's did you get? And that is one of our routines, is we're tracking the no's, right? So if we're not going for at least 10 no's a week, we're not going to ever get to yes. And now we reframed a no as a no, not now, not a no, not ever. So if someone says no, we just schedule a follow-up call with them in 6 months.
That's great. And if I'm getting the feedback, if you say no, if you say I'm 10 no's this, I want 10 no's a week, and you didn't get them, you have to ask, I must not have made enough calls. Unless you got 10 yeses, then if you didn't get 10 no's, you didn't make enough calls. So that can be a really great gauge. And it also gets you very comfortable with no, very comfortable with hearing it. And so that's beautiful. Okay, before we get into Q&A, I did mention that I would be offering a free gift, and here it is. I'm offering a free 30-minute assessment call, and I'm going to ask you to bring your biggest follow-up challenge to the call. I'm going to pinpoint what's in your way, and then I will give you a strategy that you can put into action immediately. So a few ways you can schedule a time. I will put my calendar link in the chat box. The calendar link is also there on the calendar link is also there on the screen. I'm sorry, I have to go get the link. I have something else there. Or you can scan the QR code. So when we go to Q&A, I will break and go get my, you know what, hold on here. If y'all don't mind, I'm just going to do this super quick because I've got it right here. Okay, here we go. So those are the ways you can reach out, and if you'd like to talk further about this, and I will put this back up. Okay. All right, and then we will now, there we go. We will now go to Q&A. So I'll see. There was a question for CRM recommendation. I wish I could say this is the one for everyone. I can't do that because we're all different, but I will give you some recommendations. I always start with what I use first because people are always interested, and it's a really funny name. It's called Less Annoying. And for full transparency, I am an affiliate with them. If you use my affiliate link, you'll get 60 days free. Having said that, I don't care if you use Less Annoying or not. I just want you to have CRM that you like. And because if you like it, you're going to use it. So I'll give you a few other recommendations. Pipedrive, PIPE Drive. Insightly, Insightly. Zoho. And then HubSpot, HUB. There's a really good chance you're going to like one of those. But if you don't, that's okay. Go research. There's hundreds of CRMs out there. But don't take forever and a day to make your decision, because every day that goes by without a CRM is another day of potential lost business and or neglected relationships. It's one of the fundamentals of your foundation. You have to like it. You have to do your due diligence. But there's no perfect program out there. Just figure, okay, do I overall like it? If the answer is yes, then that's your CRM. If there's a feature in there that would drive you nuts, that is not your CRM. Go look for another one. It's not a huge investment. The more robust a CRM is, the higher the price point. But even the lower price point CRMs are very relative, very current. Less Annoying is $15 a month, 1.5. Pipedrive has a similar price point. I believe I think there's coaching. What's the real big one for coaching right now? I'm drawing a blank to the name. I hear it all the time. It'll come to me. So there are coaching CRMs out there, which is great. No, it wasn't PaperBell. I'll know it when I hear it. No, not Coach Automate. It's driving me nuts. Okay, so and please, there's free out there, but please don't. This is one of your fundamentals. It's not the place to be penny wise and pound foolish, especially when you can get one for as little as $15. I'm all for saving money, but not here. Not here. It's just too important. And less is better. If you get one that's too overwhelming,
Wanda.
too much, you're not going to use it.
I think we lost you for a second.
There
There you are. You're back. I just wanted to say we have time for probably 2 more questions. I have one here in the room. Are you ready to take that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it's a follow-up on the CRM question. I've experimented with Pipedrive and with Zoho and HubSpot a few years ago. One of the things that I always encounter is typically they ask you to put in a deadline to close a sale. So it's all very sales focused. Like if you don't close it by this date, you've got to constantly go back in and change the closing date on it and also put a dollar amount or a dollar value in there on it. A lot of the kinds of follow-up that I do is I'm talking to regular people about referrals. They're actually not going to be a client, but they are going to be a source of referrals. I'd love a relationship management system that didn't put the deadline on it, because a lot of these things are not linear like that, I've discovered. So any thoughts on that, any of the CRMs you've seen that facilitate really just staying in touch with people with not necessarily this idea of closing a sale for everyone that's in that system?
Yeah, I used to use Pipedrive. I didn't have that. I don't recall that. That was not a required field. So I could use it just as for relationship management. So if there's no way to remove that field and it's requiring you to fill it out, that is not your CRM. Because there's like Less Annoying doesn't have that. I don't. Did you say HubSpot was one that had it? Zoho doesn't have it. There's Monday Morning. I mean, there's just so many CRMs out there. But ask if that is a required field. If it is, that's not your CRM. Because I get what you're saying. It's about relationship management. It's not sell. Like referral sources, you don't have sales. You don't have a sales deadline. Existing clients or past clients, there's no sales deadline. So that doesn't make sense that they would require that. And if they do, then they're very, very, very sales focused.
Wanda, we have time for one more question. Do you have one online that you want to take?
Oh, is it possible? So when you're following up with time, the 12 time, when the prospect is responding to you and you're engaging in conversation and they're saying, we're still not ready, we still haven't gotten approval, we got it, we were interested, but now we have to put it off until 2 months from now. Those kind of conversations, you continue to follow up. It is all about doing the business. And so again, it's about asking those next step conversations. It is so crucial because that's going to drive how and when you follow up. Don't be afraid to ask, would it be okay if I followed up? When would be a good time? It's the most powerful question those two questions you can ask, and you're in essence getting their permission. And then when you do what they've asked, you're going to leave a great impression, and it keeps that ball moving forward until you can get to your yes or no. So it's about having the right conversation and ending it with the questions that is going to move you to the next step.
Okay, awesome. Well, that's it for the Q&A for right now. Wanda, will you be staying on after for a couple of minutes, or do you have to cut out?
Sure, no, I can stay.
Okay, awesome. Well, I want to take this opportunity just to say thank you, Wanda, for all of your wisdom and your expertise. I saw lots of heads nodding and notes being taken.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you.